And this is a tea talk at the Milton Library. Sarah Hollock, is that right? I always like it tongue-tied with that. And we're going to talk about a lot of different things, not just about my book, Punished for Protecting the Injustice System of Family Court, but if anybody knows this story, this was my true story, and people are talking about Judge McGinty, but this is my true story, and he was the main, I don't want to say the first, because it actually started initially in the Ulster County Family Court, but he was the most diabolical of all. And it spearheaded what we see today, what's happening now. So this book is available in the back if anybody wants a copy, and I can sign it like I did for you, which was the most fun signature I've ever done. We will have that posted. I think it's already posted on Facebook, so people can see that and enjoy that. You want to show it? Oh my goodness. But this is recorded, and there'll be questions and answers at the end. And with that, if you don't want anybody hearing, this is a private recording, but it will go to certain people that wanted to be here today. And it's not going to be out for everyone. But if you don't want anything about your specific case or anything private, ask it in a more general question. So, okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a rundown. What I do, I've been doing this now for 15 and a half years, which is exactly the age of my son, Christian, who the story is about. And prior to this situation, which was originally it was a foundation called National Coalition for Family Court and CPS Reform, is what I started somewhere back in 2013. And then I uninstalled that, and I did the nonprofit, which is Punished for Protecting Incorporated, a 501c4. And that was actually established in 2018. And this happened in 2017 with McGinty, and you can read about that in the story, because I really want to get to some of the main things that we do to help families, which has been in a very dark and evil system that we have in our country, which is literally almost you're going in the lion's den every day with this. And I've been court watching these judges and these courts for this entire time. We have found ways that are actually our laws, which we're going to talk about today, to help kids, help families, and help children either get their children back or never go in the first place. Now, that's a difficult thing to do when a lot of people are working with an abuser. So if you're working with somebody who's a narcissist or an abuser, or you're not working with, they like to use family court because I really believe, from my years of experience, that the judges are narcissistic abusers. And so they like those people. And so they're not after the best interest of any child. They're after, kind of aiding and abetting in what I call the child trafficking industry.
Do you feel like it's been worse over the last 15 years or better as far as these judgments and judges?
I feel like there are still very archaic judges or courts, like Erie County, Ulster County. I seen one recently in Indiana, West Virginia. Rensselaer County. But like just this morning, I just won a case in Brooklyn, okay, and it was phenomenally amazing, and the judge was amazing. Okay, I took his picture, but I'm not gonna publicize that, because I don't want to. I'll put up the judges that are on the wall, the roll of shame, but I don't want to put up the judges that are doing good just yet, because I think they'll just start to attack them and stop them from doing good. I know for a fact that this is a federal funding child trafficking industry. We played the video prior. You guys can go watch it. The New York State Assembly, it breaks it down. It breaks down the statistics. It proves, I used their own statistics to tie it together, because over the years, which took us to where we are now, I kept asking myself, why are they doing this? Why is it that when I sit in the courts, they are taking the protective mother generally, or the protective parent, and whenever there's a form of abuse, they're giving the children to the abuser? Why is it that they can look at stacks and stacks of evidence and ignore it completely? There has to be a reason. Normal people don't do that. And I was able to find out that when Health and Human Services admits that over 88% of sex trafficked children are coming through Department of Health and Human Services, do the math. It's pretty simple. To me, it might as well be 100%, which I feel it is 100%, because no child comes out of this unscathed, okay? Even if they don't leave the good home, but they're visiting an abuser, they're not coming unscathed, and you're not coming unscathed. So with that, and I'm going to get more and more into it, and then, like, you know, we'll have, like, you know, you can take notes. Matter of fact, there's notebooks and pens if you guys want. There's paper and pens for questions for, like, after, just so that I can kind of get through this. But we have devised ways where I have to tell you, I have had more successes than attorneys and law firms, okay? I've had more successes with saving children and getting them back home than attorneys and law firms. My better cases are when people go in, what I like to say sui juris, but the court will insist on calling it pro se, because I'm able to do what I need to do for the clients. And I'm going to show you today how I do what I do with the clients. And some people like try to say, and there's a lot of opposition sometimes, but I'm ready for it. They like to say, but you're not an attorney, you can't speak in court. And I do speak in court. I speak in court, okay? I also present argument in court, and I'm going to show you how I do that as a non-bar member. So we're going to kind of go through that today. Now, some of the things, and I'm just going to show you, this right here is the website. If anybody needs help, and I don't know if they can see it on here, but if anybody needs help, it's punishtheNumber4beingaparent.com. And right here, it says we are the leading national expert advocacy group. And it says, I don't know how to move this. It says, Francesca Amato, award-winning legal advocate, which I just won the 2023 Legal Advocate of the Year. The reason I won that was because a client whose child, a mother, again, whose child was in foster care, and it was some crazy, again, the typical stuff. It's just some crazy making, nonsense, not true. They took her daughter, and I did not, and the total of the time was 20 months, okay? And the total time was 20 months, and I got involved, I think it was 7 months total, okay? So they put me into these, what they call, and it was Vermont. They put me into what's called these mediation groups with CPS, okay? And the mom would come in, and she was great. And one of the things I loved about her was that she is a fighter, okay? She's a fighter like you guys. She's a fighter, okay? She fought with everything she had. And on her bad days and on her good days, she fought. And so terrible things were happening to this little girl in foster care. And she was getting moved here and there, and she was having behavioral issues, which they have because of what you just did to them. And we're going to talk about some of that social science research today. So what happened was, I'm in one of the meetings with her, and I find out that this little girl, her hair is all knotted up to the point where you couldn't comb through it. This is in foster care because you take such good care of your children. That never happened with mom. There was also some sexual abuse that took place in foster care. That never happened with mom. So anyway, so at that, I lost it. Like, I literally lost it during the meeting. The little girl wanted to shave her head bald, okay? And I was always nice in the things, but I would always give it to them straight. And there was a therapist in there for the family that was completely on our side. And I went berserko. I'm in a nice way. I mean, we have it recorded, but I went berserko and basically said, you know, how wrong this is and whatever. I went into all this stuff. I laid out all these laws and stuff that I'm going to talk about today. And the very next meeting that we had after that, she brought some other, like, supervisor in, okay, because they knew they were in trouble. And then they started to attack my work. So we did an affidavit for the judge, and it all went in there. And then they began to kiss our butts, and they gave the mother back full custody, 100%. They tried to shove into the court order to give mom back the full custody and leave them alone, or leave her alone. They try to put in the court order, mom can't drink, mom can't do drugs, mom doesn't drink, mom doesn't do drugs, but it makes them look good. Like, we had to take her for a reason. Well, what was your reason? That all these horrible things happened to this child in foster care. So we made sure that that was all taken off. That was not in the custody order, and mom got full custody back. In the meantime, because of the work that I did with her and my team, because I want to talk about my team, she was behind doing this, getting, you know, writing in about me. And there's going to be an awards ceremony May 18th that you guys can all watch. It's going to be virtual. But she was doing this, and it's like in this category of legal advocate, but like there's other categories, and it's through domestic shelters. And I won. I was shocked. So she was like, I get this call, and I didn't know who these people were. And then I was like, you know, how did you get my numbers, when I'm thinking in my head, because I have to
Yeah.
keep my numbers private. And then I got an email, and then and then I got this whole bag full of all kinds of goodies, and I got this purple medallion and all this other stuff. So it was pretty cool, and I was in tears actually, because you know how your heart and soul goes into this, you know, so you know. So it was really nice to be appreciated. So but here's a little bit of a professional summary. So we are, and if you guys also could sign like your name and your email and all that good stuff. We are a nonprofit 501c4. So what that means is we're not a 3. We don't get government grants. So we don't do anything like that. I don't get anything from the government because I'm exposing the government for one thing, but that's my choice. I don't want to be paid through them. I don't want to be silenced through them. So I can speak. We have several copyrights, which is punished for being a parent, punished for protecting, punished for being a mother, punished for being a grandparent, punished for being a child. It kind of self-explanatory, right? Abolish arrest was something that I did back in 2017 or 18. And that was where, if anybody sees the New York State Assembly speech, it kind of sums it all up. But if you understand Titles 18, Sections 241 and 242, that's what our laws say. When there's treason on this level, and you're going to understand that even more as we go through today, when there's treason on this level, it falls under the Title 18, Sections 241 and 242, which means that they should all be arrested for this. These are crimes against humanity. These are human rights violations, constitutional violations, and the Americans with Disability Act, severe violations. The problem that we have, and I wish I could have I did record, but it didn't, no sound. Today, I spoke with the Department of Justice, which is the main venue to hold the courts accountable under Title II of the ADA. And there's Title I, Title II, and Title III, employment and work. And Title II covers the government buildings and public access and courtrooms. So we are literally, the first person that spearheaded this was Dr. Karen Huffer. She's absolutely amazing, and she did pass away. Jay Shore is a gentleman who has the same equal forensic expert background that I do, and there's only 2 of us in the country that do this. I'm a little bit different because he strictly does this, but I do domestic violence, child abuse, and the Americans with Disability Act combination. So, and we are the nonprofit as well, and I will kind of show you this. I put this up on Facebook because I had no other way to show you guys this, but here we go. So these here, this is another one I could show you. These here are some of my credentials and certifications, which I know it's kind of hard to see. This is the one with this was the 2023 award. That was actually another award. This one is for, I can't really see my own stuff here. But NOVA is a national organization for victim assistance. So I've taken years and years of training through here. And it's just a variety of different things. So it's training in domestic violence, boundaries and ethics, all kinds of stuff, which unfortunately I can't see this. We even have VineLink or Homeland Security. VineLink is if somebody goes to jail, if they're not safe, for you, and you're a victim of DV, you can keep track of. They'll let you know right away when they're released or when they're going to be released, so you can be prepared or whatever. And we know that the courts make it very difficult on victims. Matter of fact, they re-victimize you. This is here's one on VineLink right here. This is the varied impact of interpersonal violence on immigrant communities. So, for protection there and things that people go through. This one is Office for Victim Advocacy Ethics webinar, because it's very important, because it's how you handle yourself and how you present yourself in these courts. I like to wring their necks, of course, but you got to handle yourself in a certain way. There's more Vine training I have here, and then this one. This is a very important one. I don't know if I can spread this, but this is a human rights. This is a credentialed course, and it's an expert background in human rights. And this is through USIDHR, and that's located in Washington, D.C. And they also do international human rights. So it's pretty amazing, and a lot of intense training. And we also continue to take training constantly, so we're always kind of on the cutting edge, but not just to be on the cutting edge, but also so that we're kind of intermingling with these other groups. Now, believe it or not, one of the groups is it's the U.S. Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges, okay? And right now they're looking at my curriculum vitae to get me in, and I'm praying really hard to be able to get in and do like a national teaching to the judges. So the judges are all involved in this, and I've seen some crazy stuff, okay, that what they do with these judges, which I won't say here right now, but we can talk about it after we're on here, not on you know, being recorded. So this is something that I want to talk about, and this is about abuse, okay? So you can put all of this together, you can put domestic violence together, and how it's affected when people don't follow the law, when they don't follow our wonderful laws that we have. They keep making new laws, but that's not the main laws. So any policy, practice, or procedure, or any law that violates the Constitution, that's why people want to pretend it doesn't exist, that violates the Articles of Human Rights or violates the Americans with Disability Act is a major violation, and they're not supposed to do that. And those trump any of the policies, practices, or procedures that a court holds, which I'm going to get into. This right here, can you guys see it, or is it like, do I need to stand over here? This says, abuse is also humiliating you in front of others. I think judges do that. I think judges do that. I think attorneys do that, okay? I think caseworkers do that. I think, you know, they come knocking at your door, they're looking in your refrigerator. That's pretty humiliating. I don't know who gave you the authority. They don't even have authority to do that. Constantly criticizing you, making you feel like a fool, dismissing your thoughts and feelings, making you doubt yourself. I'm sure everybody can relate to these, right? Blaming you for their actions. Blaming you for their actions is a form of narcissism and gaslighting, okay? Using words to hurt you, controlling every aspect of your life, monetarily, all kinds of ways. You're sorry, you're not going to school, you know, you're not going to better yourself. Treating you like a child, isolating you from friends or family, okay? And these are very common. So when we go into this, and I'm going to show you how this works together, we're going to go with the 5 basic human rights. Does anybody know what they are? 5 basic human rights. Anybody? Human rights include the right to life and liberty, freedom from slavery and torture. Does anybody ever feel like they've been in a family court and felt like they were a slave to it or tortured? I did.
Of course.
I did. Freedom of opinion and expression.
Not allowed.
Not anymore, right? We're in New York.
You can be arrested for it.
Get arrested for
Yeah.
the right to work and education, and many more. Everyone is entitled to these rights without discrimination. Do you guys know that your human rights come with you the minute you are born? Actually, even pre-born. No, I'm sorry. The minute you are born. The minute you are born. Okay?
Even before.
Well,
Was it
I
time
agree,
if-
but
if
under
a person-
articles.
If a person was harmed and she was pregnant.
Oh, 100%.
And the baby died.
It's
that
a
baby
double
was
homicide.
considered In a court case. I don't know if that's happening anymore.
Well, it could be considered a double homicide, yes. All right, so the 30 basic human rights list is under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This is actually through what I told you before when I got credentialed for this. Human rights is a moral principle, human rights is moral principles or norms that describe certain standards of human behavior. Now, I know you guys are saying, and I said, not anymore, but the truth is these are still standing now, and that's what's really, really important. These are in effect now, okay? They didn't go out of effect because we have a country that's delusional. We have politicians that are delusional. They're deceiving the masses. This did not go away. This is what it is, okay?
You just did, just continuing to ignore our constitutional rights, the Declaration of Independence.
And that's why it's
All of it.
important
It's
that
still in existence.
it's in effect. It has not gone away.
But it's not being followed.
So, describe certain standards of human behavior and are regularly protected as legal rights in municipal and international law. Everyone born in this world have human rights and must be protected by law, okay? According to United Nations, there are 30 basic human rights that recognized around the world. So what are the 30 human rights according to, I'm trying to move this, according to, So what are the 30 human rights according to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights by the United Nations? Does anybody know, like any of them? Just put it off the top of your head. Anybody?
Food, water, shelter,
That's right.
Food, water, shelter.
clean air.
Clean air.
Clean water?
Punching McGinty. No, sorry. Okay, we're kidding. Okay.
Innocent until proven guilty,
Mhm.
that don't exist anymore.
Basic human rights recognized around the world, declared by the United Nations through Universal Declaration of Human Rights. These declarations held by United Nations General Assembly at the Palais I can't say it, in Paris, France, on 10 December 1948. One of the 58 members of the United Nations, 48 voted in favor, none against, and 8 abstained, and 2 did not vote, okay? I can't imagine what it would look like today. Thank God they were the ones that were picking. The declaration consists of 30 articles affirming an individual's rights. Those 30 articles, currently known as 30 Universal Declarations of Human Rights, or 30 Basic Human Rights, including rights to life, rights to education, right to organize, and right to be treated fair, among other things. Anybody here feel like you've been treated fair in a family court?
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
The 30 Universal Human Rights also cover freedom of opinion, expression, thought, and religion.
Oh,
30 basic human rights list. So what are the 30 basic, I know I kind of said that again, but 30 basic human rights list. Here are the full list of 30 human rights according to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR, by the United Nations, signed in Paris on December 10th, 1948.
yeah.
All human beings are free and equal. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. And that's definitely missing from the society. That's right, sisterhood.
They're not allowed to be.
No,
broken.
number 2, no discrimination. Everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, and other status. Furthermore, no distinction shall be made on the basis of the political, jurisdictional, or international status of the country or territory to which a person belongs. Number 3, right to life. Everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person. 4, no slavery. No one shall be held in slavery or servitude slavery, and the slave trade shall be prohibited in all of their forms. 5, no torture and inhumane treatment. No one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment or punishment. I know that that is not happening in family court. You are being treated like in degrading ways and being punished for just wanting to assert your normal rights. And you know them because they naturally are inside of you. You know them. So you know when something, you may not know the law, but you know something is happening to you that is not right. Number 7, equal before the law. We are all equal before the law and are entitled without any discrimination to equal protection of the law. That equal protection, human rights, I'm going to show you how that is completely tied into your Americans with Disability Rights and the Constitution. They work together. I call it the Holy Trinity of protection. Okay? And then all are entitled to equal protection against any discrimination and violation and against any incitement to such discrimination. 8, right to be treated fair by court. Number 8, right to be treated fair by court, and that's not happening, and there's no accountability for it. And that is extremely important, okay? You're born with it. Even if you, God forbid, did something really bad, I won't say what, but terrible things, you should be held accountable for your crime, but you still have your rights. You still have your rights, and it is so important. Everyone has the right to an effective remedy by the competent national tribunals for acts violating the fundamental rights granted him or her by the Constitution or by law. Number 9, no unfair detainment. And I really want to touch this one here because, again, this also works hand in hand with the Americans with Disability Act, and you're going to be blown away by how awesome it is and how they work together, because the detainment of your children is a direct violation against their right that when they were born. So when they say, the only ones that don't have rights are the children, okay? And that's true to a certain point, but it's not true because they were born with those rights. The second they came out, they have these rights, okay? Let's see, no unfair detainment, no one shall be subjected to arbitrary arrests, detention, or exile. And it's happening. It doesn't have to look like bars in a jail cell for that to be the same thing, to mean the same thing. Okay. 10, right to trial. Everyone is entitled to full equality to a fair and public hearing by an independent and impartial tribunal in the determination of his rights and obligations and of any criminal charge against him. Now that's criminal, but let's talk about that for a minute. Somebody here, we won't say names unless you want to, is potentially waiting on a bench warrant from a family court crazy judge. We won't say the name. McGinty. And he's done that to multiple people. He's not the only one. There's many judges that are doing this in civil family court, which is the lowest court in the totem pole. Matter of fact, if you watch the New York State Assembly, they're not even legally in place. These courts are not even legally in place. We never voted them in, not in states, not in Congress. We never voted them in. They have been operating for all these decades illegally, okay? So they don't have jury trials of your peers. I know it's not a criminal court, and that's what they try to pretend. Oh, well, it's not a criminal court, so you can't have that. No, that's not what this says. And also, there's no jury trial. They're making all the decisions. They're the judge, jury, and everything else. And there's not evidence-based practices. There's a lot that's going on there that's completely illegal. But they're issuing bench warrants, which will put you in jail. So how is that not criminal? How are you just kind of coloring it the way you want? It's called word salad. How are you just kind of making it up? How are you detaining human life? How are you doing that? And that's why we have to continue to fight, and that's why I fight the way I do.
So, I mean, that's so true. Yet, all I said, I was upset, how can you do this? How can you give my grandson to this man who's got a record a mile long?
Yeah.
He's a friggin' drug addict.
Yeah.
Hasn't paid any child support ever. Ever. Hasn't got a place to live. He's living even with his drunken father or his mental case mother. There's 5 children and they're all prostitutes.
You mean the
and
father's
drug
mother?
addicts.
The father's mother. In that case, you meant the father's mother that you're
Yeah.
talking about. Yeah.
And then all I said is, how can you do this? And I would be arrested.
Right.
I mean, how dare you? And how it really bothered me.
To be threatened of
I
arrest.
had to apologize.
To be threatened of arrest, which would be an
Asking
unlawful
the question,
arrest.
like,
Which would be an
how?
unlawful, but I want to save the questions to the end so I don't lose if you don't mind, just write it down so you don't forget. Because I don't want to go off on, I definitely want to go off, but not yet. So then it says, right to trial, everyone is entitled to a full equality to a fair and public hearing by an independent and impartial tribunal. Now, we know that these family court judges are not being impartial, they're not being an unbiased referee in these cases. They're not. And I see this because I court watch them all over the entire country. And I've been doing this for multiple years. So I see that they're not being unbiased. Matter of fact, they have their hand in the cookie jar because they're getting paid. They're getting financial incentives for taking children through the foster care system. It's worth money. These are worth money to these people. That's why they're not making healthy, responsible, and decent decisions based on families. Very dangerous for everybody in this country. Not just for this people that it's happening to. And it doesn't just happen to poor people. It happens to extremely rich people. It doesn't happen to just one race or religion. It happens to all people. Okay, don't be fooled by that. In 11, you said it, innocent till proven guilty. That's not happening in family court. You're being accused of something, your children's being ripped away, and then we're gonna ask questions later. That's not innocent till proven guilty. And then there's no crime committed, so why is this happening to you? Why are you being accused of child abuse? That would be a crime, but you're not arrested for it. Why would you be accused of that? To the point that they took your children. Now, when children are really being abused, they're leaving them behind. They're leaving them with the abusers, or they're giving them to the abusers. So this is a mess. This is a mess. Everyone charged with a penal offense has the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty, according to the law, in a public trial at which he or she has had all the guarantees necessary for his defense. No one shall be held guilty of any penal offense on account of any act or omission which did not constitute a penal offense under national or international law at the time when it was committed. So we've already made the connection, excuse me for a second, that they're playing it off like it's just a civil court but yet they're playing in the arena of criminality, and they can't have it both ways. Just like they pretend it's a public court, and they also pretend it's a private court. It can't be both ways. You can't be public and private. You have to be public or private, right? If I came in here and you work here and people were videotaping you, they have the right to under the First Amendment, they have the right to under freedom of press, because everybody has journalistic freedom of press, right? And because you're in the public view, if you don't want to be seen on the camera, you can go walk away, right? But they have the right to do it because we're now in the public. So that's it. There's no protection for being in the public. And if you're a public servant and you're working for the public and you're being paid by the public, judges, all these people who took an oath, mind you, that they're constantly under oath to, that's another thing. They're not just under oath when you put your hand up and you say you're now under oath. They're under oath all the time because they took an oath. That's terrible. They took an oath to our Constitution and they don't even know what it is.
No.
You can question them, they don't know. Most of the police, law enforcement don't know what it is. You cite the law to them, they don't know. They have no idea. It's very sad, and very scary, and very dangerous. Okay, everyone charged, we said that, okay, which did not. Number 12, right to privacy. No one shall be subjected to arbitrary interference with his private, family, home, or correspondence, nor to attacks upon his honor and reputation. Family court has just got an F on that on every single word I just shared. Everyone has the right to the protection of the law against such interference and attacks. So obviously, the family court has left out number 12 of the Articles of Human Rights. Number 12 is completely violated in family court. Every single day all over this country, every time they open and close those doors, it is being violated, okay? I mean, it doesn't really get any more clear than that, to the point that I want to say it again. Right to privacy. No one shall be subjected to arbitrary interference with his privacy, family, home, or correspondence, nor to attacks upon his honor and reputation. Everyone has the right to the protection of the law against such interference or attacks. Number 13, freedom to movement and resistance. And actually, just real quickly, going back to number 12 for just a quick second, they'll tell you that by coming into a family court when you entered, so you didn't bring on you didn't bring it on, you weren't the petitioner, okay? Somebody brought you there, let's just say, okay? An abuser brought you in because they want to steal your children from you as they, drunk drive and do all the crazy things that they're doing, whatever they're doing, okay? So they want to continue to assert their control over you as a DV victim, and so they want to take your children because they can no longer get to you. What's the next best way I can hurt you? Take your kids from you, right? But you went in because you're a model citizen. You're the person that thinks I stop at the stoplight, I stop at the red light, I go when it's green, I don't, I yield, of course, I gotta go, I go. You have just entered into the twilight zone, welcome aboard, and now you have consented. You've given consent.
If you give your social security number to them, they own you.
They own you. And it also goes back to your birth certificate, but we'll get there.
Oh, the children's birth certificate.
And the children's birth certificate. That's right. So we have to be able to, so once you're stuck in that vortex of family court, or it could be criminal court, or it could be CPS insanity, which I call child predator services. It's not child protective services, or child pedophilia services. Once you're trapped in that vortex, okay? Once you're trapped there, you have to know these laws and rights so that you can defend yourself, because your attorney's not going to do it. If it's a public defender, forget about it. They're not going to do it. If you're paying them $3.50 an hour, $4.50 an hour, $1,000 an hour, like some of the New York ones, they're not going to do it either. They're not there to fight for you. They took an oath to the court. They didn't take an oath to you. You're just a peon, okay? Just know that. You better know the law, and you better get an advocate like us, because we make sure that either the attorney does it or they get scared of us and they jump ship. That's what happens. Okay, and at least we force them to fight for our clients if the client has to have an attorney, okay? And don't get me wrong, attorneys outside of family court, they show far more ethics, and they went to school and paid a lot of money and actually wanted to do this job. These family court attorneys, they don't give a crap about anybody, and that's the truth. So, you will see some people with more of an education or more of a professionalism or more of a heart. Did I do freedom of movement? 13, freedom to movement and residence. Everyone has the right to freedom of movement and residence within the borders of each state. Everyone has the right to leave any country, including his own, and to return to his country. That is something too that family court does that's completely wrong, because they tell you, and in a way, there's some aspects of it it's necessary, I'm not saying, But like, you have a court order, which I'm completely against, which I'll go into that deeper as to why. But, don't leave the state. Excuse me, I'm not on parole. I can't leave the state. I'm a free person. I'm a free person. I've never committed any crimes. I can't leave. I mean, if I was on probation or parole and I committed a crime, okay, that's fair. Okay, I'm a danger to society or myself or whatever. But a danger to society doesn't just mean you murdered somebody. It means that like you're doing drugs that, you could be hurting somebody in a car or something, and you're on probation or what have you, and you've been found guilty of whatever. But for everyday people that are just parents, okay, and love their children and they're supporting them, suppose you don't want to be poor your whole life. Suppose you want to become something and you want a house in Florida and you want a house in New York and you want a house in, I don't know, Idaho. You're not allowed to do that because family court says you got to stay here. Can't budge.
You have to stay in this county.
Yeah, you got to stay in this county or you got to stay in this state.
50 miles from the abuser.
Yeah, or yeah.
Everything within that.
It's just mind blowing. It's wrong and it's mind blowing. And if we don't start to control this and realize that we have the power and we are the people, if we don't start understanding what's happening, we're never going to get out of this if we don't start implementing our rights and our laws. Help yourself. Help yourself. And there's also Antonella. There's also paper, pens,
Fran,
tea.
I have to.
Okay.
Good
So
luck, everybody.
okay, number 14. Thank you. Number 14 is right to asylum. Everyone has the right to seek and to enjoy in other countries asylum from persecution. Now, this is a good one, okay? And this right may not be invoked in the case of prosecutions generally arising from non-political crimes or from acts contrary to the purposes and principles of the United Nations. Now, I'm not going to get too much into this, but of course we understand what that means about asylum. But we're looking at it and we're kind of always pointing back to family court and what's happening, right? Everyone has the right to seek to and to enjoy in other countries asylum from persecution. I'm just kind of looking at the highlighted word of persecution because this is severe persecution. What's happening to you, what happened to you, what's happening to you, what happens to all these people, what happened to me, what happened to our children. This is severe persecution, severe, right in America. Right in America, we have to take America back. Okay, number 15. Right to nationality. Everyone has the right to a nationality. No one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his nationality or nor denied the right to change his nationality. Okay, I don't know if we see too much of that in family court. I have seen definite discrimination against nationalities. That I can say I've seen. 16, right to marry and have family, men and women of full age without any limitation due to race, nationality, or religion, have the right to marry and to find a family. They are entitled to equal rights as to marriage, during marriage, and at its dissolution. Marriage shall be entered into only with the free and full consent of the intending spouses. The family is the natural and fundamental group unit of society and is entitled to protection by society and state. Okay, that's not happening. And that's a whole, let me tell you, that's a whole other class right there that I could do on that. Also the marriage license and the whole thing with that and how you're, there's a lot with that. And also when I talk about that, I talk about the covenant of marriage and biblically as well, but we can get into that someday. 17, which I do believe is in all the religious, books, Bibles and so on. Number 17, right to own things. Everyone has a right to own property alone as well as in association with others. No one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his property. Let's talk about property. Do your children belong to you? Now, it sounds kind of lame. Like it sounds like almost not the nicest word, okay? Property, you're my property. I don't mean it like, some abuser and you're my property dragging you by the hair and saying, you're my property. But in reality, in a loving way, in a caring way, in a parental way, in a way of you love your children, you carry them if you're a woman and you gave birth to them and you cared for yourself and the child, it's your property, okay? You're supposed to be taking care of it up until 18, sorry. You're supposed to be taken care of, even through the teenage years when they drive you crazy. But they're still property because we're feeding them, we're clothing them, we're dressing them, we're, all that stuff. We're loving them, we care about them, we're making sure they have medicine, vitamins, whatever. But yet the family court rips that away, just literally, utterly destroys. Okay, freedom of thought and religion. Everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion or belief and freedom either alone or in community with others and in public or private to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship, and observance, 18, that is, of the Articles of Human Rights. Now, to go into that a little bit, family court violates that, attacks you for your beliefs, right? Splits your children down the middle, literally, and it's god awful, makes fun of you, mocks you for your faith and your religious beliefs, determines what they're going to do with your children based on how they feel about your religious beliefs. Is that correct? Is that right? Should we be doing that in court? So if they stayed within the boundaries of what they were supposed to do, they would not be making these kinds of court orders. They're supposed to be in what's called compliance with the Articles of Human Rights, compliance with the Constitution, and compliance with your Americans with Disability Act. Remember what I said? They all go hand in hand. Imagine what happens when we go in and we invoke these rights in the courts, and why we have more success than attorneys. We have more success than attorneys because we're invoking these rights together. And when we invoke these, and yes, it comes with a lot of adversity, okay, but we do. And when we do, they know that they don't really, they're monkey wrenched at this point. They don't have a leg to stand on. They have to make right decisions. They can't make all these sick decisions that they're making that are destroying the lives of children and families. Okay, but why would they want to do that? Why would they want to do that? And when they're encroaching on and the government is overreaching like this is actually Title 18 in sections 241 and 242. This is where it comes. This is why that's there. Okay? All right. And actually that goes into building gallows, which I am not about that, okay? That's not where I'm going. I'd like to see abolishment and arrest. That's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see because if we don't set a standard for these people and we don't stop them and we don't arrest them and arrest the system, okay? Which I'm going to talk about also eventually. I'm going to talk about our system that we created. I worked on it for 2 years. I'm going to go into that. I'll show it on the screen, which is our alternative to family court, which is going to get people out. We have the power to get them out and also keep them from going in ever, training them up so that they don't deal with this and we can have a healthy society and a healthy country. Then 20 is the right to assemble. Everyone has the right to freedom of peaceful assembly and association. No one may be compelled to belong to an association. I'm going to kind of skip through some of these. 21, right to democracy. Everyone has the right to take part in government of his country, directly or through freely choosing representatives. Everyone has the right of equal access to public services in this country. Equal access of your human rights, equal access of your constitutional rights, equal access of your Americans with Disabilities Act rights, which is what I'm really going to touch on today. That's going to give you a lot of hope and encouragement. But we have that right. It's protected in the Articles of Human Rights. You were born with them. They go with you everywhere you go. They're with you in every store. They don't leave you when you walk into family court. They don't leave you when CPS comes knocking at your door and tells you we're coming in when they're not allowed to come in without a warrant. Matter of fact, I make sure people are like, oh, I don't let them in my door. I don't let them on my property. They're not allowed on one blade of grass in my property. That's how it is, period. And they know it. Ulster County knows it. Okay. And then to representatives, talking about our representatives, nobody's voting for the representatives anymore or presidents or anything. You're not voting. You think you are, you're not. It's really unfortunate. And I'm not saying don't vote, but I'm saying you're really not. It's a very disastrous and messed up system. It has become a big fiasco and it's very dangerous to people.
I know people who work in the voting places during November, and they said they've seen so many mess ups.
Yes.
Not just with the machines, but with the higher ups. And it's very
100%. And here's the thing, with a situation that's that serious that you just mentioned and I mentioned, okay, when a situation is that, it should be I don't even know the right word to use, but it should be so protected and so treasured, and we fought so hard for it. And when that happens and we're not allowed to talk about it, I mean, the combination of violations is just off the charts. And why all of these things matter, and why I want to empower all of you today that you're fighters for your children, and I appreciate that and I respect it and I honor that, and you're fighters for whatever you're fighting for in this country, in your life, in your families, or whatever, your jobs. We have to do this. What we're doing, we have to keep doing it. We have to, because they're encroaching in and deceiving. And we cannot let this continue to happen. And this is how I just had another win this morning, like I said, and I have multiple, okay? I'm by the grace of God, I'm not taking all the credit. by any means. It came with a lot of heartbreak and tears. Okay, so our representatives in Congress, I have spoken before all of them. I've been there multiple times. I had briefing rooms, and they don't care. Left side, right side, some have some good, some have some bad, some have some really bad. They don't care. They know this child trafficking industry is happening. This is indeed happening. They know it's happening, okay? And they don't care. So your representatives, who we should be voting in, we should be voting out, okay? We should have full control over what they do. We should have full control of what gets put in paper. Okay, this should not be happening. Now you have opposing sides, which makes things difficult, and we have to come to agreement. But the way I look at it is this: when I look at you, I don't say, "Oh, you're a Democrat, get out of here." "Oh, you're a Republican, I don't want to help you." I don't care what political background you are. I look at you as a human being. I'm here to help you as a human being, from one human being to another, and I want to save your life. I want to save your children. I want to save your rights. And then I think we would get along a lot better and say, "God, they hurt me too. Oh my God, I was a staunch Democrat and they hurt me too. I was a Republican. I was independent. They hurt me too. Let's come together and let's stop this, because that's what they want." And the reason they want it might sound far-fetched, but it's true. We've proved it. The reason they want it, why? It's because they are making not millions, not billion. They're making trillions and multi-trillions of dollars off of children. They are worth a lot. Children are worth a lot. And it's as bad as the horrific thoughts that you can think of for child trafficking, but it's just trafficking. When I take a physical body, no matter what age, and I forcefully move it from here to here, I trafficked it. I trafficked you. That's a form of trafficking, okay? And that's what people don't understand. They think it's just kids being put into prostitution or something. And that is true. That's very true. But when you rip a child from a beloved family member, a mother, a father that is protective of that child and doing the right things, and you're ripping them from one place to the next, and then somebody like McGinty will say, when they're giving them back, "I don't know if I could do that because I don't want to hurt the child, but I can do it to rip the child and put the child into abuse." And he'll actually say crazy things like that. I've heard him say stupid things like that on the stand. He doesn't know if he could give them back, but I could rip them 3 times from you and give them to an abuser. That's fine. That I didn't do that with any thought in my head whatsoever.
So the foster system, you have to pay child support when they take your kid?
And they're getting federal funding on top of that. So they're more than double dipping, and those kids are being moved to at least 20 times a year. But that's okay. That's fine. Okay. 23 is the right to work. Everyone has the right to work, to free choice of employment, to just and favorable conditions of work, and to protection against unemployment, everyone without any discrimination. And I don't do as many. I do mostly family court. So I do Article 2. I do Title 2 mostly under the ADA, but I do Titles 1 and Titles 3, which is employment, and then education. I have some cases like that too, which we've been pretty successful in. But the problem that we always have with any of this stuff is the accountability aspect, which would be the Department of Justice, which I argue with all the time, because it's such a simple fix. I even said to the girl today, I don't care about you suing them and all this stuff. I don't need that. I need you to just say, "Hey, court, you're doing wrong. Do right." That's it. Federal codifications are right here. This is what has to be done, and then just do it. Follow it. You don't tell a disabled person that they don't need what they're telling you they need. A judge doesn't have an authority, and I'm kind of going into ADA, but a judge doesn't have an authority to grant or deny an ADA accommodation. If I said to them, "I want to bring in 3 pink elephants," okay, no, that's just insane. But a reasonable accommodation is pretty basic and simple, and a judge can't, listen, a wheelchair is a reasonable accommodation. A judge can't say, "I got to grant or deny that." Same thing with an invisible injury. It's no different, and it's very clear, which we're going to show you today. We're going to show it to you. I'm going to show it to you in federal law. I'm going to show it to you on the screen. You have the right to rest and holiday. You have the right to social service. Now, all of these things are all ripped away from you when you're into the family court. All of this you're robbed from, okay? So these rights you're being robbed from. So it's not like, a judge just switches your child over and it's just, obviously that comes with its own pain and suffering and rights. But do you see the multitudes of rights that they're violating? Like, if we were to come together and did this huge lawsuit against the court just for human rights violations, do you see why Tyrone Wilson was fired? He was fired as a commissioner of human rights because he violated my group of people's human rights, but we stepped away. Everybody was too traumatized. Other groups fought, thankfully, and today he's now fired, and now they're taking all of us. Okay, they're taking all of us, and that's gonna open doors for others of you in different counties throughout, well, this in particular in New York State, but obviously I do this nationwide as well. So this has been a big thing. As a matter of fact, the assistant was coming today, and then she could not come today. That's the reason I'm recording privately, because she wants this, and she also wants me to train people. So this is huge now, okay? This is gonna be very helpful, because it needs to be done. Okay, you have the right to social service. Everyone has the right to a standard of living adequate for health and well-being of himself. Now, it's good to have the right to social service, but it's not good to have social service control your life. It's not good to have social services come in and tell you how to live and write things down and tell you that you have to sign something, put you under duress, demand that you signed it, or this is gonna happen to you. If somebody says to you, do this or that, that's a bully. That's an abuser. Okay, and a lot of these people, they're coming out of domestic violence. So they're so used to being told what to do that they do it. And then the judge turns around and abuses them even more by saying, well, you signed it. But you thought that you'd get your kids back if you signed it. You were lied to. That's, and it just keeps going. It's logarithmic. It just keeps going. They manipulate you. Okay, so you have the right, but they have to remember something, and this is imperative. They are our public servants, okay? But yet they treat people like they're here and you're down here and you're their servants. It doesn't work that way. We pay their salaries, okay? And whether you think you pay their salaries or not, you do. Think of it like a lottery. All your taxes get paid, and it gets divvied out, and it gets added together, and that's how salaries are paid. And then there's federal funding, which they can be stripped of. And that's why we have to continue to be educated on this and fight it and know your rights. There's nothing more important than knowing your rights. Nothing more important. Okay, they say knowledge is power. And again, and basically they're going to get into they talk about disability, old age, all this kind of stuff, sickness, unemployment, all of that for the right of social service. But again, like I said, right of education, 26, everyone has the right to education. Education shall be free, at least in the elementary and fundamental stages. Elementary education shall be compulsory. Technical and professional education shall be made generally available, and higher education shall be equally accessible to all on the basis of merit. 27, right of cultural and art. Everyone has the right freely to participate in the cultural life of the community, to enjoy the arts, and to share in scientific advancement and its benefits. Everyone has the right to the protection of moral and material interest resulting from any scientific, literary, or artistic production of which he is the author. Now, I can put this into family court too if I wanted to, just in the sense of it's another rights violation, because when your children are thrown around and put here and put there and all this kind of crazy making is happening, or you're being arrested for no reason, or I don't know, whatever nutty thing that they're doing to you, those rights, the simple enjoyments and pleasures of life are ripped from you, and they're ripped for long periods of time. And when you get your children back and when you start healing, it takes a long time to get back into my gifts, my talents, the things that I am good at, because I've been stunted by that. I've been harmed by that. Okay. PTSD, acute PTSD, depression, anxiety, those things. Okay. So they're causing and they're exacerbating pre-existing conditions, and they are causing disabilities. Okay. They're causing disabilities. Subject to law, everyone has duties to the community in which alone the free and full development of his personality is possible. In the exercise of his rights and freedoms, everyone shall be subject only to such limitations as are determined by law, solely for the purpose of securing due recognition and respect for the rights and freedoms of others, and of meeting the just requirements of morality, public order, and general welfare in the democratic society. Number 30, human rights can't be taken away. Okay, we talked about that initially. They can't be taken away. Doesn't matter what you do. Okay, I'm not telling you to do bad things, but it doesn't matter what you do. They cannot be taken away. So let me ask you guys a question. If you walk into a family court, did your human rights stay outside? Technically, that's how they treat you, but did they come in with you when you walked into a family court? They did, right? They came in with you. The Constitution comes in with you, whether they pretend it doesn't exist. Don't mention the Constitution here, or an attorney. Don't mention the Americans with Disability Act here. First of all, they're not taught it in their bar schools. They're not taught it. That's first of all. Okay, if I show them the federal codifications and they're any type of attorney whatsoever, they should comprehend them. okay? But they fight you for it. Why? Because by bringing in these rights, what happens? They can't be, they're gone. They can't do their games with you anymore, okay? And attorneys should be reporting these judges. That's their proper ethical duty. They should be reporting these judges and watching the torture that they're doing to people. But they're all doing it because this is the reason. This is the reason. This is why. This. Okay? And 30, like the most important, human rights can't be taken away. Nothing in this declaration may be interpreted as implying for any state, group, or person any right to engage in any activity or to perform any act aimed at the destruction of any of the rights and freedoms set forth herein. So those are all the universal declarations of human rights listed by the United Nations General Assembly, all universal human rights list above, and then I don't have to really get into any further with that. And now, just to get over to, where is it? Okay, so that was one of my credentialed areas. So this is the thing, where is it here? Okay. Yeah. I'm going to talk to you about how the ADA works with this. I put it here. Let me just watching, or not watching now, but we'll be watching this later. So now we're going to get into how this works. I don't know if we'll have time to do the Constitution today, but we can kind of go touch on it. But when it comes to the Americans with Disability Act, okay, we're going to talk about that. Very important, and I want you guys to see this because it's very, very important. Okay. It didn't load yet. Just give it a second to load. While we're waiting for that to load, I just want to show you guys, while we're waiting for that to load, while I'm waiting for that to load, because I'm going to get into the Americans with Disability Act, I want to show you this right here on the website, which is punishedforbeingaaparent.com, okay? If you go here on the website, there's different ways, there's different options here. Generally, you come into our organization through what's called Book a Talk. Book a Talk it starts out with, it's a screening. So we assign one of our intake specialists to you. That's first. So basically it comes in, I have a scheduling assistant, her name is Clarice, and she's gonna look at the contact form and she's gonna read whatever you put in there, and we consider everybody's case an emergency, but obviously my baby was just taken today might be more of an emergency than I have full custody, but on the weekends the child's being abused, okay? So we may have to move that up sooner, that kind of a thing, although you all matter very much. So she goes from that first, it would be under the Book a Talk link, okay? She assigns an intake specialist to kind of fit you. Now I have Hannah, and she's absolutely amazing, and she has a double master's in governmental law and education. We have Molly, and she has, I don't remember exactly all the credentials, but she has like, she mostly has like an education background and so on, and they all take Americans with Disability Act courses. Hannah's about to be certified soon. And she's really good and she really understands. But with the way this works is that like I don't really handle education stuff other than like ADA, where she'll handle like IEPs and things of that nature, and then she can tailor a forensic report for you for school if you're going through whatever in the school. And then obviously we together as a team, and with me, we go after all the ADA violations, and then like I said, I've got the human rights credential and constitutional law, which we all have. So on my website, you would go here, okay, and you would go to Alternative to Family Court. Now, you're still going to go through the normal process of like the intake screening and then the consultation with me. And then I'm going to be able to determine what works better for you, because you may not be a candidate for Alternative to Family Court, which I'm going to show you guys real quick right now. You may not be a candidate for this because you could have such a crazy abuser on your hands that there's no way, and it's not worth it. I don't want to see people spending money on something that, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to see people spending money on something that it's not gonna work for them. So it's a lot less expensive, obviously, and nothing that I have here is expensive, by the way. I keep my prices extremely low, but it's less expensive to just do the normal way, which is book a talk screening, intake, and then consultation with me. And then generally I'm like sitting in your courtroom, observing and doing nonstop work, because they fight us tooth and nail, basically. I mean, I had the win this morning. That judge was really great. I've talked through the whole thing. We do what we need. Everything is done, and it was a very great day. And then in the next room, I have another one in another state, and they're not even letting me in the door. It's just whatever. I got to go in for you, whatever, like it happens. But, so I know where to kind of put you. But for this would be for families, and we're calling it ending family court one bench at a time. Okay, I'm the person that coined abolish arrest. I want the system down, and that's what I want. I don't see any anything good coming out of it. So what do we have in place of it? We have what we call alternative to family court. Alternative to family court means you don't ever go in, okay? Unfortunately, your marriage is, dissolving, or your relationship, or whatever. And we also have ways through this alternative to family court that can actually potentially save your family completely, where maybe some people won't get a divorce if
Oh, you cannot do that.
Oh, she has to be let in? Do I have to
You
push it?
still lock the door, you just open it.
Just open it. Sorry about that. Oh, that's fine. So, okay, so with alternative to family court, you can come with us, and we have the team. Now, this is the whole team in this involved, and we take you through social science, some of the stuff we just taught you, your human rights. But what we really are going to get into is, and it's also faith-based. So we're also going to get into ways to heal your family, keep it holistic, keep it healthy. We want to see the more people and families that can be generated into this country that are healthy and whole, and not abused and attacked and ripped apart and destroyed. So we show the negatives of what family court does versus how healthy this is. And then you're on your merry way. You make a decision. Say you go to the Supreme Court with what you willfully, you did according to your free will, decided upon. You can go and sign your divorce paper, where the family has a holistic, healthy, thoughtful way to make sure they're not hurting each other and they're not hurting their children. Okay? When we get to, and we go also through the violations of the ADA. There's so much, and then we're bringing it to an end. So it could be 3 sessions, it could be 4, it could be 5, it could be 6. It shouldn't go past that. And now you're done. And now you leave, and nobody's forcing you. On Monday, little Tommy goes to this house. On Tuesday, this house. That is so unhealthy for a kid. Even if it's 2 good parents and one's not on drugs or something. Even if it's 2 good parents, would you like to live here and there, packing and packing, and even if you have 2 separate bedrooms? Would you as an adult want to do that? Imagine that during the developmental time of your children, mom, dad, they're already going through a breakup. It's like, it's just wrong. There's nothing right about it. Okay, so here, we're just going to show you this real quick. And this is how you can, Hey guys, I'm so excited to tell you that we are launching the Punish for Protecting alternative to family court. You can see a live video this Wednesday, April the 12th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook, Punished for Protecting News channel, or Francesca Amato on Facebook, or my YouTube channel, Punish No More and Free to Protect. And please turn on notifications so you don't miss this episode. We are launching an alternative to family court through my organization, Punish for Protecting Incorporated. Punish for Protecting Advocacy Mediation Program remains unmatched as the premier source for restorative efforts, alternative approaches, and empowering education. When dealing with family court conflicts, we are dedicated to providing you, the family, a holistic perspective for success. Family courts all over this country, which I have firsthand observed all over this entire nation, and the judges that I've exposed and observed, and child predator services, CPS, law enforcement, politicians, and so on in this child trafficking industry have done disastrous work and literally harmed countless American families. This will stop that. Now, one of our goals is to keep you out of family court, never to go inside. Goal number 2 is to get you out of family court if you have been a victim of family court and you're in the family court loop right now. Goal number 3 is to help you who's dealing with a narcissist abuser in the family court, to help you to be able to deal with it and succeed. However, one of these things one of the things that's going to happen here is that this is going to put like a spotlight on abusers, because good, healthy parents are going to want to go through our program and get the protection their families need without dealing with family court. So whether you're breaking up a relationship or you're unfortunately ending a marriage, which we also have certain areas in what we're doing in our organization to help save marriages that are salvageable, because we believe in the family and we believe in marriage. However, I know that sounds funny, but we don't believe in abuse, and that's why we do what we do. And we believe that children should be protected, punished for protecting. So there's so much good that's gonna come out of this, not to mention the fact that this will start to put a stop to the foster care industry that's been harming thousands of American children and children abroad, of course, and also the forced adoption, which is the most disgusting thing. So this is how it's going to help the end of child trafficking altogether. I only have 3 minutes on here, so I can't get into all the details. So you don't want to miss this program live 8 p.m. on Wednesday, April the 12th, when we're launching the Alternative to Family Court. And one last thing, it will also air on Rumble the following couple of days later. You can watch it after. Okay, so we launched it on April 12th, and there is an entire video. You can check it out on YouTube and so on and so forth. We launched that, and the good news is that we've already gotten an overwhelming response. And what I want to tell you is that, let's see if this, what I want to tell you is that people think, oh my God, my case is so bad and my ex is such a nutcase, and like obviously somebody like your case, you know, but that may never work, so I wouldn't do that. Obviously, there's other ways, but some people had some bad situations, and I don't want to give away too many secrets on here, but some of those people are willing to come in to do Alternative to Family Court. And I feel like with the proper training through Alternative to Family Court, even some of the people that we didn't think would ever do it are willing to do it. And then I think once those seeds are planted, you know, and you make these decisions, once you make it, it's finalized. So we don't handle, like, obviously we're not judges, whatever you want to call. We don't stamp those or anything like that. That's a decision you make, and you can bring it at that point to an arbitrator, and you can split it up and just pay the bill and have it put in legal writing if you feel that that's a necessary thing to do. Or if you're going, like I said, to the Supreme Court because you're divorced, we make sure, you know, everybody doesn't like lose their shirt, lose their vacation, lose their 401, lose their home, lose all that stuff, and more importantly, don't lose their children. So that's the goal behind that. Now we're going to get into the ADA a little bit, and then I know we're going to wrap. So I don't know why it's not putting it here. This is twice now I did this. Twice I put this here, and twice it didn't show up. Why would that be?
Where are you going?
I keep typing it onto my Facebook page, my ADA notes, and I don't know why it's not coming on here. It's probably here. I need that so I want to show you how these rights protect those rights that we just went over. And obviously we weren't able to hit the Constitution part today, but so let's see. I should be able to see it. I'm private. Oh, sorry about that. Thank you for letting her in. Okay. Here we go. So now how your ADA goes with your Constitution, and how the Americans with Disability Act goes with what we just discussed, the Articles of Human Rights. So here's some good stuff, guys. And this is when your attorneys argue with you and tell you, don't bring the ADA and the judge might take your children because, you know, you have a mental illness. I don't even use the word mental illness because it's got a very negative connotation, like there's something like you're foaming from the mouth and it's insane. I mean, most people have some kind of psychological injury. People went through COVID. They were trapped in their houses. They didn't have their jobs. It was a scary time for people. Or you've gone through family court, and so you've got, post-traumatic stress or depression, or you've been in a DV situation, or you got hit by a car, or whatever the case may be. Attorneys have disabilities, and there's attorneys that do great jobs. They have multi-million-dollar law firms, and they do great, and they win cases, not family court, but we're talking about like in the real world, So it's a discrimination. It's a complete discrimination, and you don't attack that. And I call them psychological injury because that's what they are. The Department of Justice, the Americans with Disability Act, Dr. Karen Huffer, she's like the leading doctor who passed away. Jay Shore trained under her. I trained under Victoria Gribbin. Victoria Gribbin and I are really good friends, and Victoria trained under Dr. Huffer. They knew each other. So basically, they call it invisible injury, okay? We're gonna get a little bit into how the judges see things in a minute and how other people see it, but if the attorney gives you a hard time, in 2002, you can see right here, the American Bar Association House of Delegates, passed a resolution urging all courts to make their services fully accessible. They included all impairments, whether obvious or invisible. Post-traumatic stress is invisible. I can see it because I'm trained. So I do what's called visual and body language diagnostic. So when I'm looking at somebody, even if I don't know them, I can say they're triggered right now. They need a break. They need whatever. And I have to tell that to the judge. But I can be in ShopRite and I can spot somebody that's having some kind of an episode, okay?
I just have a quick question,
Go ahead.
Just to clarify. Do you have to sign up for disability in order
No.
to?
It falls under a category.
So how do you fall on?
You don't have to have a card or anything like that.
Right. So how do you fall under that category then?
So under the Americans with Disability Act, whichever title, so right now we're covering 2 because 2 is courts,
Yep.
government buildings, stuff like that. If you have the category, so I actually think I posted it on Facebook one day, I have to go scrolling. There's a category that doesn't cover, and there's a category that it does cover. And so post-traumatic stress, depression, anxiety, cancer,
So do you just say, I just have anxiety?
you don't even have to, it's so broad and it's so protected that you could say, there was actually a case where a woman pretended to be blind and they couldn't do a thing about it. That's how broad it is, okay?
So you
That's
could
how
just say,
broad it
I
is.
have PTSD from a court.
Yes, but you don't have to tell them because that's called your private health information.
Okay.
And like HIPAA, that's why you have these rights. And I had an attorney the other day say to me, well, like HIPAA, that means it just means that their medical provider can't speak out about that in court, but they can depending on certain things. But I said, no, it's not. It's your private health information. It means exactly that. Okay. And I'm gonna get into that today a little bit more. And obviously this needs advanced, education on this and so on, but I'm going to show you how serious it is. So judges do ask me. Sometimes I'll say, we'll tell it to the judge. We'll tell it to, because they're so thick-headed and they're such know-it-alls and they're so egotistical. So I'll say, do you mind, so-and-so, if we just kind of, let's let the judge know. Because they think they have to know because they can provide your accommodations, which is ridiculous. The person that's sitting in the wheelchair, do you say, are you a paraplegic? Do you have lost a left leg? No, it's not your business. It's discriminatory. It's not your business. It's the bottom line, and it's very strong protections. And so the federal codifications are the authorities. That's it. You don't have to answer to anybody else about it. It is what it is, okay? That's it. It's not like a case law. See, the difference between federal law and human rights and those protective, amazing laws is that case law is a case-by-case. Case law, I'll just make one up. I'm just making this up. There probably is one, but Jones versus Jones. Jones versus Jones doesn't go with everybody here. It doesn't fit your case. That's why it's called case law. It's not the law. It's just case law. It's lesser. Does that make sense? So if this violates what's legitimate law, we got a problem. And so if the court wants to violate because they're going to say case law, but case law doesn't fit everybody. That Jones versus Jones doesn't fit this case. In that case, it may fit this case.
I'm
Right?
just trying to understand how you fit under the umbrella, how one fits under
Because
the
there's a
umbrella.
list. So whatever, and everybody that I screen and everything, they have legitimate disabilities, okay? We talk about it.
Mhm.
And they don't have to tell me either, but they do because it helps me to help them, right? But there's a list. The Americans with Disability Act says these are the things that are covered and these are not. So what's not covered is like certain types of mental illnesses like borderline personalities, sociopathy, that's not covered. So I couldn't be your ADA advocate for sociopathy. Not that I would, but you know what I'm saying? But all the other stuff is covered. So like cancer, anxiety, depression, that's covered. It's covered. If you told me, if we talked aside and you said, this is, if you were diagnosed, chances are, I mean, I already know, not saying you're crazy or anything like that. I already know you're nutty.
Right, I'm just trying to follow
yes.
the umbrella.
Like, how does that,
If you go into court and, you have such anxiety because the judge wants you arrested or your
that's right.
spouse wants
That's
you arrested,
trauma.
you have-
So that's
have
trauma.
Such trauma, how do you move forward
So
with
just walking in,
protections of that?
just walking in, and believe it or not, it's so strong that literally everybody that walks into a family court has the right to an ADA accommodation. Okay?
So
So
you,
I'll give you an example. I had a woman, maybe 2 or 3 days ago, and we had court, and she was her own attorney because her attorney dropped out literally a week before she had court. Traumatized. She was traumatized. And the woman was a moron. Not the woman, but the attorney. So we go in together, and the judge knew the ADA, so she respectfully had me speak and do whatever I had to do. Okay. So then I said, she was going to hold court, and I said, you can't hold court, and I cited all the rules and so on, and she said, okay, and then they tried to take something from her, like her alimony or something, and the judge knew she wasn't allowed to do that. She knew it, because you can't adjudicate a disability, and you can't financially burden somebody because they have a disability, so you can't take away one freedom for another, okay? So she knew she couldn't do that. So she knew she had to have court to take away or not take away her alimony. Okay. Meanwhile, he makes like $200,000 a year and she makes nothing. Okay. Yeah. Typical. What is he so worried about? So he don't feel it. So anyway, so she gave her 2 weeks to find an attorney. And this poor woman literally like pounded the pavement trying to find an attorney. I was in some of the, consultations with her because we have to make sure that these attorneys know that I'm going to be working with her, like it or not. Too bad. So, and then I'm not going to take your job as an attorney. I don't want it. You can keep it. You can take it and shove it sideways. I don't want your job. I'm only doing this. So anyway, she couldn't find anybody. They were just not available in 2 weeks. They weren't ready. These attorneys couldn't take it. So we get back in. She had a list this long. She showed when she had consultations, what happened. Didn't matter. The judge made her proceed. She just violated the ADA. She violated it because she didn't have her ADA access.
And what ramifications is there for that?
And what?
What ramifications is for
So
the
what it's
judge?
supposed to be is that the Department of Justice could actually strip some funding, and that's what I'm trying to get them to do. That's why I'm on the phone with them all the time, or I'm sending in non-compliance complaints. It takes time. It's a slow grinding pain in the butt for me because I have to fight 80% of my day fighting for rights that people already have. But they could be, the main one is that they can be fined $75,000 up to $150,000 per violation each time they violate. That's what I'm trying to get them to do. So I spoke to the Department of Justice this morning for an hour talking about how there's a huge miss from here to here, where if you would just fill in this gap, people like myself can do our jobs. If you just put out a memo, do whatever you got to do, just tell the courts they have to follow X, Y, Z. And when somebody like me comes along and says, these are the ADA accommodations, okay, you're not supposed to have to pay for transcripts. It's called CART. You're supposed to have it visually in front of you. If you have a learning disability, which most people have learning disabilities from post-traumatic stress or whatever. And the reason is because of what it does to the brain. You could be Einstein. That doesn't have anything to do with it. And I like to show judges, I do it in a picture all the time. You got a picture of a man in a wheelchair, sitting in a wheelchair. You got a woman in a Calvin Klein suit, articulate, presentable. She looks amazing. She speaks amazing. Which one has the disability? What would you guys pick? Automatically, what would you pick? The wheelchair. The wheelchair is the obvious choice, right? Guess what? We make the picture bigger. And when we make the picture bigger, he's sitting in Walmart. You want to hear the story? He sat down because his wife's been shopping for 4 hours. He's tired. He's carrying bags. And he sat down. He has no disability. She has 4 disabilities. She has depression. She has ADHD. These are all covered. She has whatever. Okay? But she can speak. It doesn't make you stupid. It makes you have a disability. It's a discrimination. It's a wrong point of view. It's a very wrong point of view. So judges, when they say, well, I can only use ADA accommodations to obvious disabilities. Really? Who told you that? It says it right here. It says it right here. It says very clearly, urging all court to make their services fully acceptable. They included all impairments, whether obvious or invisible. And that's Herder 772. Period. The advocate is, according to all these sources, the key liaison responsible to see that the court respect the litigant's rights. And that's where I come in.
Has any judges in New York been fined?
Excellent. I had one fined? No. No, I thought you said been good. No, unfortunately, not that I know of. It's been a slow churn. It's been, because you got to remember something. The only person that spearheaded this was Dr. Karen Huffer. There's other ADA advocates. They don't know what they're doing. I already know because I'd be working with them. Jay Shore knows what he's doing. Okay, he's awesome. I love him. And so it's me and him. That's it. It's me and him, and then Vicky Gribman. But Vicky doesn't do this. Okay, we do. And then I have the multifaceted. He does strictly ADA. So we bounce off each other sometimes, but we're fighting. So when she died, she started boom, breaking in and doing all this amazing stuff. Okay. I'd love to be able to call her up and say, oh my God, I need somebody to vent to. And me and him, we're just like cracking into it. And we're literally waking up all these courts right now. So that's where we're at. We're spearheading this basically. So the laws are there. The Department of Justice should be doing this. They do audit some. Like if I have 50 non-compliances in one court, they audit it. I don't think they've ever audited Ulster County because they're so behind. But I've had other courts literally where as soon as I put in the non-compliance complaint, the judge recuses. Just like that, gone. He's done because he knows he's in trouble. And he knows he can lose funding. Because how is he losing funding? Because they got to pay these fines. And where are they going to get these fines from? Okay, so that's what we're fighting our butts off for, and it's exhausting because all of your cases are hard enough for me, let alone I got to sit there on the phone and fight this idiot and that idiot and explain and teach and be nice and and I don't want to be so nice sometimes because I'm just tired of it because in the meanwhile I got kids being molested and all this other horrible stuff that's going on, and I got to fight you for rights that we already have. Congress passed federal law 42 USC 12203. Okay, now you can go back to 12201 and 2, but really important. Of his or her having aided or encouraged any other individual in the exercise or enjoyment of any right granted, which are already granted or protected by this chapter. No litigant. Now you guys have immunity and I have immunity, and judges don't have immunity when they violate this. It's not taken away from them. They just don't have immunity. They don't have constitutional immunity, they don't have human rights immunity, and they don't have Americans with Disability Act immunity. We are powerful. We just don't know it. So it says no litigant is to be forced to accept an accommodation preventing the advocate or attorney in fact. So I would be an attorney in fact. I'm not a bar member, but an attorney in fact is somebody that has specialty. I have specialty in all of this. You just seen all my credentials. I showed you everything. And I don't need to have credentials, by the way. I don't even need to have them. That's the funny part about it. I'm advocating for you. I just happen to know my shit. But some people, grandma, I think I told you that one. I said, grandma could be blind and deaf, but she's your comfort animal and you need her in public court with you. And that's one thing that the judges will do. They'll say, oh, it's public. She can be here. She just has to sit in the back. I can't help you if I'm sitting in the back and I can't see your face. I can't help you if I can't say, she needs a break. Or you're violating, or that opposing counsel's ripping her to shreds. You better stop that right now. I did it in court one day, and the judge stopped it immediately. And she said, Miss Amato is right. He said, Miss Amato is right. Okay, and then thanked me, and then asked me if there was anything else. That's what I'm getting with some judges, not with the McGinty's of the world, not with the Kerry Savonas or the, wackadoodles. Erie County, holy moly, Judge Lavallo. She is completely out to lunch. Okay. So it's very, very clear. And then that's under the part about no litigant is to be forced to accept an accommodation preventing the advocate or attorney in fact from acting fully and completely in the best interest of the litigant pursuant to 42 USC, that's 12201, that one. So that's really important. That's 12201. And here's a doozy. Now there's several of these. This is just one that I put here. There's several of these, and this is important. Tennessee versus Lane. That is case law, okay? A state shall not be immune under the 11th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States from an action in federal or state court of competent jurisdiction for a violation of this chapter. So everything that I just talked about, they're not immune. They don't have immunity. That's it. They don't have it. There's no qualified immunity for that. They don't have it. and there goes their immunity. If we're in the middle of right now putting together federal lawsuits because Jay actually won one. I've done many of them. I just have run out of like financial resources or help because I'm busy helping so many people. It's very difficult for me. And that's why I love people who, I had a mom whose child, it's a whole crazy story. She got her kid back as well, but she was very helpful, extremely amazing. She was a PhD and she works for graduate and works for Cornell University. Okay, another so somebody like her who's like a go-getter and she's like, you know.
Is somebody at the door?
For real? Oh, well, she's extremely late. We're closing up soon, but you're welcome to come in. You're welcome to come in. We're at the end. Oh my God, hello. Come on in.
We tried to get in the front, but they were locked.
Yes, we're almost wrapping up. Have a seat.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're cool. I want to have a seat anywhere you want. Get yourself a treat or a drink. And here, this is for you, Sophia. Okay, so a state shall not be immune under the 11th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States from an action in federal or state court of competent jurisdiction for a violation of this chapter. In any action against a state for a violation of the requirements of this chapter, remedies, including both remedies at law and in equity, are available for such a violation to the same extent as such remedies are available for such a violation in an action against any public or private entity other than a state, 42 U.S.C. 12202. You would be really good with helping me to get a federal thing together.
Yeah, but the problem
We could work together.
But the problem that I'm having with this is that these judges like McGinty, you know, violate all these constitutional rights. I've sued McGinty
Right.
for this,
And they're all-
it's just
they're all-
completely
because they're
dismissed
all
before it's
buddies-
even heard in the
they're
federal
all
court.
buddies
So
all the
where
way
do you
up.
go? Who do you
I
complain
agree with
to?
you. That's
And
been
then
my,
You file these
Final
lawsuits, you spend
thing
hundreds
is
of
they
dollars,
have
dismissed,
immunity.
dismissed,
Right.
dismissed,
Right.
dismissed, without even being heard. So
I agree with you because we've done it and I know,
the
but
judge could literally murder my children and get away with it. Like,
And get away with it.
That's the problem that I'm like, why put all these resources and time into, you know, another federal lawsuit when it's just gonna be
well, we're not,
dismissed?
you can't do them in New York. You can't do them in the third department, for example, when we're
Yeah.
talking about that section, okay? You can't because they're all in bed with McGinty. They're
Yeah.
all together on this. They're all ignorant. I deal with the ADA coordinators up there. They're so beyond. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like having a conversation with somebody that lives
Yeah.
in a box somewhere.
Yeah.
And they're the ADA coordinator. They just
Yeah.
slap a label on them with
Yeah.
no knowledge of any of
Standardized
this.
letter back. Yeah.
Right, so, and I had these
Bring it up.
conversations and I'm like, you don't even know what you're talking about.
Right.
But here's the thing, there's the US Federal Court of Claims, that's in Washington DC. They're also in, the Virgin Islands, and I always forget the third, Guam, maybe? Anyway, that's it, that's the Constitutional Court. That's where it needs to be filed.
And those haven't,
And it's the same filing fee, $4.50.
yeah, and those haven't been dismissed?
Nobody's
immediately?
done this.
Huh?
We're the cutting edge. We're the monopoly.
And is that under like?
And I know how to do it. I just
Yeah.
need help.
Is
course I
that
know
under
how to do it.
civil,
Yeah, civil. Everybody goes 1983s. That's not the, it's not that. It's not that. But
is it a class action? No.
you could
right?
do a class action. You
Or
could.
but
And the
how-
other thing that we're in the middle of working on right now is we're suing the DOJ. We're suing the DOJ because they're responsible for this. They're the only place, and they send people back to the Bar Association. That doesn't make sense because the Bar Association, like I said, they weren't trained in this. So they just assume because they've been doing it so long, we're the boss, we speak for you, we tell you what to do, that don't talk about the ADA here, don't talk about the Constitution, you just, the
Yep.
Constitution, then this is treason. On
Dis-
American
dis-
soil, this is treason.
dismiss. Federal courts are dismissing
Right, that's why that's
everything.
not it, but that's not the way. So, okay,
I
and,
see.
and then we're gonna wrap, because I know it's getting, late for you, and,
Yeah, I gotta go.
but there's so much more here, there's so much more, so we talked about Congress passing federal law, USC 12203, and then we just talked about the advocate. The ADAAA, now the ADAAA has built-in protections versus that's again with the retaliation as well, so that's all covered and that's all under what I said, 12201 and 3. This just kind of talks about remedies and procedures. The remedies and procedures are available under sections, and this is important because what you're talking about right now, 12117, 12133, and 12188 of this title shall be available to any aggrieved persons for violations of subsections A, B of the section with respect to subchapter 1, subchapter 2, and subchapter 3 of this chapter respectfully. And that's pretty much it. I talked about modification. This would be a whole other topic, but modification under the ADA federal codifications is necessary to prevent discrimination on the basis of disability. 42 USC 35.130B7. There's a lot of categories in this I could go over, maybe at another time or whatever. Or what I do is I tailor letters for my clients that it gets invoked into the court. It kind of gives them a heads up. I don't ask for rights. I tell them. I'm not asking them to grant or deny a right that is yours. I tell them. I don't write little things. As my client is in a wheelchair, he needs a wheelchair ramp. Will you have it? No, we don't do that. I tell them what they need. They need cart. They need me. They need. I need the video camera on their face. I prefer them virtually. If they're a DV victim, they don't want to go to physical court. It's too traumatizing. Oh, I was saying before, I had a lady who went in pro se. She did a phenomenal job because she didn't have an attorney. Everything went pretty smooth. And at the end, because I was trying to explain to her what needed to be done and she was missing it, the judge was good in one aspect and bad in another. And then all of a sudden she asked her two very, very basic, simple questions. This woman just went into all kinds of stuff with no problem. Two basic questions. The woman was completely gone. She was gone. My client was gone. And I said, this is exactly why you have just violated her rights. You violated her. She's not even here. She has no equal access in this court. She has no equal footing in this court. She doesn't even know what's happening right now. It was obvious. It was obvious. So, but this right here, and then if you go into this, it talks about, the First Amendment talks about freedom of speech, freedom of the press, which everybody has, okay? Like I said, in a public place, I can sit here and film you unless you can't say I don't want you to. You can't, because you've lost that privilege when you're public and you're a public servant or whatever. We're allowed to, DHS already approved it in 2010. Just a minute, I'm sorry. Under the communications part, we have where you can have video and audio recordings in court. You can have video and audio recordings in court, okay? And they're not allowed to take that away from you. The other thing is that just ask for cart. That's what I do. So you can have video and audio recordings based on the First Amendment and based on the Americans with Disability Act in court. They can't take that away. I know James Kelly has been fighting for that, but these are the laws. These laws are clear, okay? They've just been violating them, and that's what they're doing. They're violating all of these rights. I believe that if people continue to stand up, put their rights in writing, stop saying, letting the court know. I don't care how much they hum and haw. If you watch that guy, Sean Riaz, he's a Long Island audit. He's amazing. I'd like to meet him. I'd like to interview him. I think if the two of us work together, we would clean up the whole country in seconds. Because between my knowledge and what I do, and him going after law enforcement and making complete fools of them because they just don't know, we would change the world. We literally would change the world. So now we'll just do some quick, maybe 10 to 15 minutes of, because she's locking up of so many Q&A. And I know we did it kind of through it, but anybody has any questions or answers? I'm kidding. But we can do some Q&A right now. There's obviously a lot more to learn. And I understand you feeling totally defeated. I totally get it, because it's
like,
I get it. But, that's the point of having to just keep going.
has there been a similar case?
Well,
that's
Jay
been
won a
filed?
federal lawsuit. He
Who?
won one. Jay Shore, the other expert, like equal to me, he won a federal
What
lawsuit.
state?
Was it North Carolina? I think it was North Carolina. So I can hook you up with him to talk to him about it. I mean,
Yeah,
we're going together. We give me, Vicky, and Jay are doing a lawsuit against the Department of Justice. We're working on that together. So
If you have anything similar.
Yep.
I'll take a look at it and.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Jay Shore,
Jay?
Shore, Shore.
Well, I think you're absolutely on point with the American with Disabilities Act.
Mm-hmm.
They follow you through school, they label you in school, and it follows you through school, through high school, middle school, college. It should follow you through the courts. They should
Of
acknowledge
course.
that.
They're supposed to by law.
If they're not, then they certainly are held to that standard and things need to be done.
Mm-hmm,
And it is certainly a violation.
mm-hmm,
Um,
100%.
you're right on point where that's concerned, and courts don't recognize that.
Mm-hmm, we're
Even
fighting
if
very
it's a
hard.
late diagnosis, like you were born in the 70s and you haven't been diagnosed until adulthood, they don't recognize that as a formal disability.
Mm-hmm.
But they need to recognize that and they need to acknowledge that.
Well, but the Americans with Disability Act does recognize it. It's just that the courts are ignorant and they're not versed. And then they're slapping labels on people because under the ADA, with 50 employees or more, you're supposed to have a designated ADA coordinator, and I'm supposed to know that person by name. And they'll go, oh, we only have 10 employees or 15. No, it's the county. It is not just your court, okay? So it's like, 10 or 15, doesn't matter. And what they're doing is when they realize, when I show them the law, they're like, oh, yeah, no, we do have one. Mary Jo's one. She was the court clerk, but now she's ADA coordinator. So I talked to her. She knows nothing, nothing. And then they send me up to Albany or wherever. It could be West Virginia, wherever the state is. And they send me up to that department for, whatever. And they don't know anything. Okay. It's scary. So we are literally doing this. That's what we're doing. This is what I'm talking about, my training, because it's like, this is what we're doing. We're not just doing the individual cases and then we're trying to do them corporately, but we're making the changes in the DOJ, we're making the changes in the upper court, whatever it is, we're doing whatever it takes. We're having success. I have ADA coordinators, real coordinators. They don't know what we know, but they're very nice and they're learning. So now they can keep applying it. And they're in different states and different counties, and they are saying, okay, thank you, Miss Amato, or thank you, Hannah, because Hannah knows it very well. She calls in for me or whatever, or she takes some of my cases, and she'll call in and they'll start applying what we're telling them we need. We're not asking them, we're telling them what my client needs. I know what you guys need because I screen you, I go through the whole process with you. And it is working. So we're winning, okay? There's places we're winning. We're defeated in some and we're winning in some, but we're winning a lot and I'm winning more and more. So
The courts care about numbers, they don't
they care about
the
this,
individual.
money, they care about money. Yeah.
They're in there, they don't, if they can push you out, push you in as quick as they can push you in, they can push you out. They don't.
Yeah,
read
they don't
between
care.
the lines,
Yeah.
and they'll find a loophole to fall into to say, okay, well, here you go. And
Yeah.
that'll keep you quiet for a few minutes until your next time in court,
Right.
and then you're back to square one again, and you're
Right.
like sitting there like, well, so that's where they get you.
That's
And
where they get you.
They plan it and they strategically place it that way, so they don't have to be liable for what they're doing.
But they are liable, they are liable. Anybody else have questions or anything? Questions, concerns, hunger pains? Anything? How long of a drive?
I guess it took me through, like on 9W, so it was like a one lane with traffic,
Yeah, this
but
is,
it's supposed to just take like an hour.
oh, wow. Well, thank you for coming from so far. How many hours, 3 hours, thank you for coming so far. What,
Yeah, I was supposed to go to nine
You know,
W,
this is-
but I went the wrong way to 32, which took
Oh.
just as long,
Oh,
probably, so I would have been here late anyway.
well, I'm gonna turn the camera off. Thank you guys for watching. I'm gonna turn that off. This was a private recording for gonna go to just some people.